Good evening, friends. Normally, I don't do webinar equity outlook 2 days before the month ends because a lot of data don't come. Like for example, advanced decline ratio for the month, GST collection, auto numbers that normally get declared on the first of every month. The reason I'm doing it for the very simple reason I'm traveling next week. And since I'm traveling next week, I'm in Vaishno Devi for the darshan. So that's the reason I thought let me do this webinar today because if I do it next week, 1 week after that, it will be a little late for the equity outlook. And then in the month of January, I'm going to do equity outlook for 2026. So I thought it's a good opportunity, let me do that. So, and second thing, you see me wearing a hoodie, not because it's a cold, very cold. Only problem you can see that shirt pe wo thoda, it's not coming out properly because I have a camera. So that's the reason Basil told me to wear this hoodie, so I'm wearing this hoodie. So with this, let's open with very quickly without wasting much time. Disclosure, this webinar is just to enhance your understanding about the equity market. Please consult your financial advisor before buying or selling any stock. Past performance is no indicator of future returns, and investment securities market are subject to market risk. So, we all know that today GDP data came out and it surprised everyone, and hopefully we should expect market to be up on Monday. I think there are a lot of things which are positive things which are happening in the market, and that makes me extremely bullish. If you remember, on the first week of October, I said Nifty can go up by 18% in next 12 months. I reiterated in my blog in November saying very similar and saying bulls are back. And as I speak to you at the end of November, I'm more than convinced now that Indian equity market is heading for a major upside. And GDP data reinforces my point of view. In fact, I was reading the RBI latest data on the credit growth, and the credit growth in the month of October has been quite better as compared to what it was in the month of September. A lot of positive things are happening in India. Sometimes, there's something called tipping point. So a lot of things happens, market doesn't move, and suddenly something will happen and market will move significantly. So that's exactly what we are all looking at it. So very briefly, I'll talk about it. We all know that Indian market reached all-time high, yet we don't see our portfolio value at all-time high for the very simple reason mid and small cap still not been participated in this rally. It's not that they are not going to participate; they will participate, but with some amount of a lag. At the same time, the investors are making a comeback. And what makes me this statement, because in the month of November, the average traded volume increased to more than 1 lakh crore. And in fact, on the day like on 24th November, that is in this week, the volume was 1.5 lakh crore. It crossed 1.5 lakh crore. So slowly and steadily, the volume, of course, today the volume was not so great, but slowly and steadily the volume is coming back. That does give me a comfort level that investors are still now warming up to the equity. Previously, gold and silver was catching a headline, bitcoins were catching a headline, and hence equity was not on the discussion table. And today, the equity is making a strong comeback. And if you look at the advanced decline ratio also, it giving a much better indicator that we are heading towards a better time. Inflation declined to 0.25% in the month of October, and that further increases the possibility that RBI do one more rate cut, and I'll discuss that more in my subsequent slide. Bihar assembly election took place. NDA not only won with the majority, but I think a thumping majority. And what happened to the complete India bloc, I think it's a disaster. So which clearly gives an indication that the Modi, the local, the state level people seems to be happy with what NDA government, and that will make it bring in more political stability at the center. So that's what has happened. We all know that Trump has not made any negative statement in the month of November against India. Otherwise he would go on talking about India almost every day. And many times I've seen him making twice, saying India is doing that and that. And of course, he made a statement that India is a debt economy. And I think someone should show him today what the GDP numbers of India, and then shouldn't make him remind, does the debt economy grow at 8.2%? And I think he will have to swallow his words actually. So that's what has happened. And of course, some of our opposition party were making a mockery of, making what you call amplifying what Trump was saying without realizing that how much damage they are doing to the India as a country. So why I'm talking about, because the relationship between India and the US seems to be warming up. And one more measure has been taken by where PSU oil companies have signed a 1-year agreement with the US to import 10% of India's annual LPG from US. So that's what has happened. And second thing, post Bihar election, Indian government announced 4 labor reforms as a part of ease of doing business. And I think we should expect more and more that's going to happen in coming days. Globally, a lot of things happen. Let's take step by step. First thing, in the month of November, the first time we saw scare because of AI valuations. There is something called a black swan event. What is a black swan event? The event that comes out of blue and no one was expecting from that. At the same time, there is another word called grey rhino. I don't know how many people would have heard who attend this webinar. Grey rhino is nothing but you know that event is coming and still you are taking it very lightly and then hits you very hard. So I think AI valuation is not something black swan event. Everyone talks about, but no one seems to be taking seriously. Everyone seems to be saying, let's enjoy the party till the music is on. So that's added to some amount of a volatility in the global market because of AI. Second thing, another fear came because of yen carry trade. And why? Both are linked to each other. Why? Because whatever the cheap money that has been borrowed from Japan got invested to some extent or to great extent in the stocks like AI focus. Why? Because Japan cost of borrowing very, very low. And this AI was the darling of the investors. So you borrow less, you make more gain on AI theme, and eventually you make a lot of money. And once you leverage that, the power of compounding increases. And there was a fear that if the gap between the Japanese bond yield and the US bond yield narrows, will there be a reversal of the yen carry? And that created some amount of a fear. Yesterday we had a very exhaustive webinar with our PMS customer explaining what yen carry trades are, what is the kind of exposure Indian market has in terms of yen carry, what is the global yen carry, what we call outstanding amount, and what kind of leverage and what it can do that. Another thing which happened in the US, which started in the month of October but got over in the month of November, is a US government shutdown. It lasted 43 days, which is the longest ever in the history of the US. And of course, the uncertainty still persists. I think the shutdown is a temporary measure. By 31st January, again, we would see very similar kind of a scenario coming in. Tariff power debate, whether US president has a power at all to impose tariff. The court is, the matter is in the Supreme Court. Going by the statement coming from the US Supreme Court, that I'm talking about in the month of November only, looks like that Trump is on a very weak wicket. And probability is very, very high that this will become null and void, looks like. But of course, we don't want to jump the gun, and we'll wait for the final outcome coming from the Supreme Court. US consumer sentiment is anyway taking a beating. And if you know, the popularity of Trump as a president has come down very drastically. There was an article, I don't know whether it was in Wall Street Journal or The Economist. I was reading it, and it's basically this one. The reason is very simple: high cost of living. That's what the user consumer confidence study done by the University of Michigan. This one, high cost of living is one concern that everyone is talking about. Second thing, a fear of rising unemployment. And I think we all know that some of the leading companies did ask employees to go in the US, and this can further aggravate because of AI and because of slowdown in the economy. Third thing is that personal finance weakening. People are expressing the financial strain and reducing purchasing power, and that's adding more shows that consumer confidence in the US is not very good. The only segment which seems to be little more upbeat is the investors with exposure to the US equity market. For the very simple reason, US equity market did reasonably well. Sometimes we need to understand what Trump is trying to do. It seems to be behaving like a pakka politician. And why am I saying so? Listen to me very carefully. On one hand, he said that I'm going to give every US eligible citizens, and of course, he has not defined the term eligible, but it could be low income, middle income, and so on and so forth. $2,000 he will give to each and every US citizen who basically satisfy that criteria. And the most probable timeline is mid-2026. And why would he like to pay that? Because he believes that the tariff revenue that's coming in will help me to reduce the burden on the US consumer, and hence he said I'll pay $2,000 per one time only, not every year kind of a stuff. But when you do the mathematics, okay, based on certain assumption, it looks like the amount of flow that will go because of $2,000 is much higher than that the gain is making because of tariff. And if that happens, the deficit can further widen. The story doesn't end there. He also talks about 50-year mortgage products. So if you look at in US, and those who are from US, please correct me if I'm getting somewhere wrong, normally the norms are 30-year mortgage. In some cases, they do give 40 years, but no one gives for 50 years. The reason is that you reduce your EMI, and once you reduce your EMI, your purchasing power goes up. I'm just trying to understand, if someone who is a year of 25, if it goes for 50-year mortgage, he would be 75 at the time of this. Will he be earning at the age of 75? How practical this is, we need to wait and watch. In fact, there was another proposal that was coming in. Investors can carry forward their mortgage loans from one home to another home because the mortgage rates have gone up as compared to what they've locked in previously. Am I right? So that was another proposal that is under discussion. We don't know whether that's going to happen or not. So even if that will encourage people to move from one house to another house and keeping the same mortgage rate. It's a proposal and discussion. I don't know what will happen. Trump seems to be blinking. Why? Because there has been some amount of it rollback in some of the agri products like tea, coffee, beef, and so on and so forth. And of course, Brazil, he reduced certain products import duty on the Brazil, which has as high as duty on India. And last but not the least, which has come today, that he's saying, since I'm making so much money on the tariff, I'll do away with the income tax. अभी वो income tax निकालने वाला है या 2000 tariff citizen को देने वाला है. He can't do both. If he does both, it's going to be this. And someone basically should be accountable. And of course, he's behaving more like a pakka politician. We don't know whether what's going to happen going forward. Geopolitically, there has been a discussion now that Russia-Ukraine peace efforts are on the card. Some proposal have been proposed by US. So there has been some modification suggested by Ukraine. Whether it goes through or doesn't go through, we need to wait and watch. But of course, the Russian president is visiting India next week, and of course, we are going to we are going to sign some of the defense agreement as and when the Russian president visits India. AI valuation, which I was talking about, there are some notable exits which has happened from NVIDIA. And if you look at the SoftBank and the Peter Thiel, they both exited 100% from the NVIDIA, whatever this. At the same time, Michael Burry, who is known for short selling, and this guy who basically did short sell in 2008, did shorts on NVIDIA. And just for your information, NVIDIA in last 1 month is more down in double digits, 10.33%. The US market has not gone down so much, but NVIDIA has gone down by 10.33%. There has been, and that's one of the reasons why yen carry trade became a limelight, because a lot of investors would have borrowed money, invested in NVIDIA, and when that asset takes a beating, and if you are leveraged, it creates a cascading effect on your margin call. At the same time, Berkshire Hathaway, which is Warren Buffett company, invested $5 billion in Alphabet. So that's what has happened. We all know that Berkshire Hathaway has been selling stake in Apple, but right now it invested $5 billion in Alphabet. In fact, if you look at the graph, Alphabet has been one of the best performing company among that Magnificent Seven in 2025, and yet it invested $5 billion in this one. So many times people say that why are you investing in 52-week high? Warren Buffett has been investing in the all-time high, which is in Alphabet. So not necessarily the company which has been 52-week high. It's a wrong time to invest in those companies. China's export decline. China export fell down to only 1.1% growth. Basically, there is a continuous softness in China, and of course, the economic challenges, the real estate market continues to struggle, and so on and so forth. So China is facing a little tough time. Let's quickly look at what are the November highlights, and then I'll talk about how do we see the market going forward. India's market cap, what it was there, if you remember, when we touched this one, 475 lakh crore in September 2025. Today we crossed that 475 lakh crore. Or this one. In other words, India's market cap, of course, there are so many IPOs came in last 12 months or so, which got added. But India's market cap, what was the all-time high, we have crossed that, or we have touched that. It has happened. In last 1 month, we added about 4 lakh crore market cap in 1 month. As I was explaining about, if you look at it, the cash turnover on NSE has increased. In August, it was to 93,000 crore, which increased to 98,000 crore. It further increased to 98,740 crore. And in the month of November, we crossed 1 lakh crore. Of course, the highest has been about 1.13 lakh crore, which happened in June 2025. So we are inching towards that. Who knows, in the month of December, we might cross 1.1 lakh crore. You can help me accountable. If you remember, in the month of October, I stated that the November market, the volume would be better, and the number clearly shows that. Almost near about 7 to 8% growth we have seen in the cash market. Again, I am saying you, smart money is moving into equity. HNI investors are coming back to the equity. Retail investors are making comeback. Please don't be delayed in terms of increasing your equity allocation. If you do that, you need to blame yourself, no one else. Nifty IT was one of the best performing sector, which surprised me, to be very honest with you, 4.86, followed by Nifty PSU Bank. And the data which has come out from the RBI says that in the second quarter of FY 2026, the loan growth of the PSU bank has been much better as compared to the private sector bank. Second thing, they said that the LDR, loan deposit ratio, of the public sector bank is at 70, while the private sector bank is much, much higher, which reduces the leeway for the private sector banks to go and expand the loan growth. That's what the data says. But Bank Nifty did 3.39. Worst performing, Realty Index 4.5, CPSC 2.37. Small cap did very bad, 3.25. That's one of the reasons. While the market has touched all-time high, your portfolio did not do it because the small cap was down by 3.26% in the month of November, and mid cap was hardly in the green at 0.39. Otherwise, sensex and Nifty increased by almost 2%. How did what are the top gainers in the Nifty? Sitaram Finance is in the top of the table, 16% gain. Asian Paints gained 15%. One reason has been that the guy who was heading the Birla venture of paint, he has quit, and that gives some comfort level to the investors. It's up by Hero MotoCorp, one of our topmost holding in PMS, was up by 11%. IndusInd Bank seems to be making some comeback post some kind of a corporate governance scale, was up by 8%, and then Sun Pharma and so on and so forth is done well. Company like Tech Mahindra and HCL Technology also did well, which is that's one of the reason why we see what we call the IT index doing much better. there is one thing which I must tell you, that some of these insurance companies seems to be getting more interest. So HDFC Life Insurance up by 6.3%. There seems to be some amount of traction happening. Company like Tata Steel was down by 8%. Grasim was down purely because of the paint head quitting. Hindalco was down by 5%. Eternal was down by 4.7%. And of course, the company like Trent, which has a very disaster 2025, was down by 9%. Of course, Tata Motors was down by 13%. FPI in the month of November has been negative, but if you look at the quarter wise, the first quarter they were net seller, second quarter they were net buyer, third quarter they were net seller, and in the last quarter they seems to be turning positive. So वो क्या बोलते हैं ना, कभी खुशी कभी गम वाला scenario we have seen in FII. But as far as the domestic DIs are concerned, very rock solid inflow, 7 lakh crore they've pumped in till now in 2025. The YTD, the Nifty 50 is up by almost 11%, mid cap almost at the same level 2025 what it was there, and small cap is down by 5.54%. Rupee did decline in the month of November by 0.65%. Of course, this data is as of 27 November, and overall YTD we are down by 4.19%. In the month of October, India outperformed the US market, and that trend continued even in the month of November. I know many of our investors moved to the US market thinking that it would do well. Some of our investors did also invest in Chinese market, but I think हवा का रुख बदल रहा है. In the month of October we outperform, in the month of November we outperform. And look at this. Nasdaq is down by 2.4%, Sensex is up by 2.12%. SSE Composite China is down by 2.01%, Nifty 50 is up by 1.94%. And S&P 500 almost at the same level like Dow Jones, and BSE 500 is up by 0.91%. So not necessarily if the US market goes down, we will go down. We have seen that happening in the month of October. We have seen that happening in the month of November also. So don't try to see that there is a decoupling between US and the India market. In the medium to long run, short term there could be a gyration, but otherwise there is a decoupling happening between the US and the sun. Crude has been falling, which is very good for India. We are $64. We all know that one of the leading FIIs came out with the report saying that crude can go down to $30 per barrel. India imports near about 11 lakh crore every year of crude oil, mota. Assume that we are paying near about on an average $70 in last 1 year. If it goes to $30, India can save near about 40 ka 70 ratio would be near about 55-60%. Near about 5 to 6 lakh crore, India can save purely on the import bill, and that money can go for the capex, because our total capex for the year is near about 11 lakh crore. So you can imagine how much money would be available at disposal of the Indian government. And second thing, since India import crude, India import inflation. If crude has to go to $30 per barrel, you can all understand what kind of inflation number we can have it. So as I told you, हवा का रुख बदल रहा है. Things are turning a lot of positive for India. In terms of historical December, it's not very proper trend. कभी खुशी कभी गम. In last 3 years, 2 times December was not a good month, except December 2023 when the next market went up by 8%. If I have to predict for 1 month, I am very certain that in December 2025 again we would see the sensex going up and give a positive gain for the market. India's GDP growth 6 quarters high, 8.2%. Am I right? And those who have been predicting about dead economy of India, they should look at these numbers. 5.6, 6.2, 6.2 to 7.4, 7.4 to 7.8, 7.8 to 8.2. And this is a time when India had a tough time navigating the tariff from the higher tariff from the US. This is the quarter when people stopped consumption to some extent because of Prime Minister Modi announcing a GST rationalization. And this is the quarter when, because of a monsoon, economic activity got impacted. So the numbers are in front of you. You can all see what numbers we are talking about. India is not a dead economy. And if Mr. Trump is listening to this, please look at this slide, Mr. Trump, and now tell me on what way you are saying India is a dead economy. Either your definition of dead has to be changed, or you need to accept that you made a blunder while announcing India as a dead economy. Mr. Trump, try to learn something and don't try to ridicule India as an economy. Let's move on to the next slide. How do we expect the Indian market? So there are three important measures central banks are going to announce, three central banks, RBI, Fed and the Bank of Japan. And why Bank of Japan matters, I'll explain you that also. So let me first tell you that 25 bips rate cut we should expect next week on the 5th December from the RBI. Then we should also expect 25 bips rate cut from Fed on the 10th of December. And while RBI and the Fed is going to reduce the rate, the Bank of Japan is likely to increase the rate on 19th December. In other words, the gap between the US bond yield and the Japanese bond yield is going to get narrow further. That could amount to some amount of a unwinding of a yen carry trade. Liquidity dynamics are improving, not only in the market but also in the economy. The data which has been released by RBI recently does indicate that liquidity in the economy is improving, which is makes me very optimistic that we would see better volume on the cash market and better participant from the retail investors like you and me. And hence, in other words, the momentum that has been built from October, which continued in the month of November, will get further extended in the month of December. And I must take some credit where it is due. I was one of the outliers to say that Indian market will give 18% return in October block. And lot of people thought ये आदमी सिर्फ बोलने के लिए बोल रहा है because underlying कुछ दिख नहीं रहा है. But underlying बहुत सारा चीज दिख रहा है. When I'm reading the data, when I'm analyzing data, I can see that picture अभी बाकी है मेरे दोस्त. I think it's just the beginning of a new rally in the Indian equity market. And hence my request to all of you, do not get tempted to lock in profits in this rally. You may repent it. I'm talking about the Indian equity market, not the US or this one. I've been kept saying in this webinar again and again that I'm reducing my exposure from gold and I'm using that liquidity to invest, increasing allocation to equity, which I did in the month of November also, and I'll do it in the month of December also. So my request to all of you, let's not be in a rush to lock in profits. When I talk to some customers, they say, अरे लास्ट एक साल में तो बैंक सेविंग जितना भी पैसा नहीं बना. And that's not how the equity market behaves. वो कभी आपको negative returns भी दे सकता है equity market, and when it starts doing well, it gives you a lot of positive returns. So that's where the non-linearity comes into the equity market. So I think we are building a nice momentum in the equity market, and we should expect Indian equity market to do very well. US market will keep challenges ahead purely because of AI valuation concerns. We all know that Nvidia is down by almost 11% in the month of November. Who knows? Nvidia might end up giving no returns in 2025. I again repeat, who knows? The story that we all talking about, Nvidia might end up giving no returns in 2025. I don't know what the return Nvidia has given in 2025. Let me do quick ChatGPT. The return, the sale price return of Nvidia, let me just see what return India in 2025. Let's see. YTD. Oh, it's 30% up. Sorry. So I don't think it will be what we call. It may not be the same, but it's still up by 30% after down by 10%. So it can still give a positive returns, but I think the 30% can further come down in the month of December. There are a lot of macroeconomic headwinds that US is facing, and it will start reflecting, and that's one of the reasons why Trump has to soften his tariff blow on certain commodities which we discussed in the previous slide. Global risk factors are manageable. Yen carry trade, where it's a concern, it's not going to go out of the proportion. It's not going to be like a global financial crisis. Yes, some institute can go broke, but not so much. And the impact on India would be very, very limited because our yen carry trade exposure would be near about 5 to 7 billion only. Okay, and that's mainly into mid and small cap. So I don't think we should need to expect too much. Russia-Ukraine conflict, I think we should see some kind of a positive development. If that happens, I think it would be good for India. Who knows? Our that additional the sanction that has been imposed because of we buying crude oil from Russia could get lifted. So tailwinds are multiple. Then of course the market will start talking about the budget expectation, which is due on 1st Feb. There is a possibility that we should see either STT being removed completely or reduction in the STT rate. And of course, there will be a lot of reform that will come. There are a lot of multiple factors like reforms from the government, the commentary from the India Inc. and so on and so forth. That's a positive catalyst. And of course, this rally will get sustained and market will look forward for the India Inc. numbers, which I strongly believe would be much better than what we saw for September quarter. So I think overall, the things are turning very, very positive for Indian equity market, and hence we should be bracing for another upturn in the equity market. With this, on a positive note, I would like to open the floor for question and answer. Frank is saying, hello Sunil, greetings, any view on FDI in India? I came across some data saying that it is a round-tripping phenomenon in the case of India. Any thoughts? More FDI holdings in any company could be suspicious. India is the only country in the BRICS with positive NRT. All others are negative. Is the growth story of India real or fake from FDI perspective? So Frank, to be very honest with you, I have not looked at the FDI data and this round-tripping and how do we prove it? There are a lot of rumors, lot of gossiping, lot of this one. I don't know whether these data are right or wrong. The fact of the life is that India's GDP at 8.2% is real. The fact of the life is that the GST collection, which will come out on 1st December, I would not be surprised if it is more than 2 lakh crore. And the GST collection is a real number. Am I right? The 15% growth reported by India Inc. is a real number. Am I right? So I don't know whether whom to believe. Am I going to spend my will have a sleepless night because of FDI ka round tripping ho raha hai, nahi ho raha hai? I don't think I damn care for that actually. Okay. What I do care for is that what India Inc. is talking about. I do care about what is the liquidity in the system. I do care about the quality of the balance sheet of India. If you look at the cash and bank balance with India Inc. has been quite strong as compared to what used to be. So if any future shock that can come, I think India Inc. is in a well position to absorb that shock. So there are what are headwinds that we were saying because of tariff and so on and so forth. They are all turning into tailwinds. So I don't want to spend too much time on whether FDI is fake or not. India growth story is real, and that's why I'm very, very optimistic about the Indian equity market. Vatsalya is saying, do you think Fed will cut interest in December view of inflation going up in America? So right now, probability is very high that they will do it. So that's the reason I said RBI will do it, Fed will do it, but Bank of Japan will increase it. In India, is it reported that inflation has gone down to below 1%? Do you not think it is a manipulated figure as nothing has become cheaper? I would love to know why do you think it's manipulated? Please explain me that. What is okay? Have you seen your consumption basket? It's very simple. We all consume products, and today we buy a lot of stuff through online. Am I right? Since you buy through online, we have a digital footprint. वो बिल आपको शायद आपके ऑर्डर हिस्ट्री में मिलेगा. My request to you, Vatsalya ji, please see your basket, what you bought in the month of September and what you bought, because this 1% is for the month of October, and see in the month of October and see where is the price have gone up, and you will realize that the number looks very, very this one. We have not seen any hike in any of the product. Of course, there will be some odd item जैसे milk थोड़ा बढ़ गया, अभी टमाटर्स के price थोड़े बढ़ गए हैं. That's a different story. But when you look at in totality, I don't think India is facing a higher inflation problem. And with GST reduction, it's all the more reason the inflation would trend down. Today in the FII event, the minister of the secretary for the agriculture department, he mentioned that even he don't expect the food inflation to go up in next 6 months. Why? While the kharif crop may not be so good, but because of the high moisture in the soil, the rabi crop would be good, and hence you don't expect any food inflation to surge. So नहीं sir, मुझे नहीं लगता है कि ये data manipulate है, unless you prove me wrong. So what you should do, again I repeat, you look at your basket, what you put. I'm talking about groceries and other thing. जो आपके पास है, देख लो उसमें बढ़ा है कि नहीं. There are a couple of things you can look at it this way. क्या आपके गेहूं के भाव बढ़े हुए हैं? क्या आपके चावल के भाव बढ़े हुए हैं? Have your dal pulses price have gone up? Has your milk price have gone up, and if yes, how much? Has your electricity cost gone up? If yes, if you consume more, there's a different story, but the unit has gone up or not? Has your petrol diesel price have gone up? The answer is no. Has your vegetable price have gone up? Answer is no. Has your what are the other expenses that you would basically look at it? वो आप देख लीजिए ना, आपको पता चल जाएगा. ग्रोसरी का जो बिल है वो देख लीजिए. क्या आप जो, हाँ, आप होटल में जो खाना खा रहे हो, हैव दे इंक्रीज द प्राइस, वो पता चल जाएगा आपको. जो पिज़्ज़ा मंगा रहे थे उसका प्राइस ऊपर बढ़ गया है. जो आप पास्ता मंगा रहे थे उसका प्राइस बढ़ गया कि नहीं. आप सैंडविच मंगा रहे थे उसका प्राइस बढ़ गया कि नहीं. आप कोल्ड ड्रिंक्स मंगा रहे थे उसका प्राइस बढ़ गया कि नहीं. That will give an idea whether the month on month or year on year the price have gone up or not. Satrugna, how important are the US tariff concession for markets to rebound? Also, has India got used to sustain without this? So, sir, thoda bahut, in the month of November, Mr. Piyush Goyal made a statement that November export data are much better than what it was in the month of October. Of course, the data has not been released yet, but that's what Piyush Goyal made a statement a couple of days back. So, I think somewhere India has been trying to navigate this tariff. बट वो कंसेशन आ जाएगा, डेफिनेटली मार्केट विल रीबाउंड. सर, ये जो मार्केट की जो दुर्दशा हुई है इन द मंथ ऑफ इन 2025, वन ऑफ द रीजन हैज बीन द टैरिफ अनसर्टेनिटी. सो वंस वी गेट द टैरिफ अनसर्टेनिटी, शत्रुघ्न सर, डेफिनेटली मार्केट विल बाउंस बैक. वो बोलते हैं सोने पे सुहागा हो जाएगा. Rinku sir, the IPO market is currently buzzing, and when we hear the news about the market moves IPO, sir, हम लोग IPO लेके नहीं आ रहे. We are not working in the IPO direction, to be very honest with you. We don't need funds. जब हमें funds चाहिए नहीं तो हम क्या के लिए IPO लेके आए? That's one. So that's number one. And second thing, if you ask me, इस valuation में अगर हम IPO लेके आते, what is the probability of investors making money? So we are not coming out of the IPO. Several stock of the week are now trading significantly below the suggested level, with some even more than 41. Should we consider buying additional quantities of these stocks at the current prices? So Rinku sir, if that the answer, if the script is still buy in our system, please go ahead and buy. If the script is hold, please don't buy more of those companies. So I hope that answers both the questions. I have given an India static C grade. How correct is this? What is the effect of it? To be very honest with you, I don't know whether they have given that C grade or not. Sorry, I have not updated on this, so I need to see that, and then maybe I'll be able to comment on that. I don't know. Maybe next time when मुझे ये forward कर देना, I'll look at this, and maybe when I come next time, I'll comment on this. बस ही मुझे forward कर देना, WhatsApp कर देना. Arun Kumar, Indian tech companies and R&D is much lower than global giants. These companies are working just like a global call center. One Indian tech recent buyback is huge compared to its R&D spend. Understood that it's less than 6% while it is about 20% R&D spend. How do you see this? So, sir, I don't know the number between you are referring to Infosys, okay, and what is the R&D numbers and what is the buyback? I have not looked at it. But we are right somewhere, India per se has been little slow or little reluctant to spend on R&D. And one reason has been that, I think sometimes the people who are running the company are more happy showing short-term gain so that price remains high rather than creating a long-term impact. Because when you spend on R&D, your profits will come down. If the profit comes down, market may not like it and script will come down. And they have a fear if the market goes down, either उनका ESOP कम हो जाएगा या उनका salary कम हो जाएगा, they will be asked to go. And that could be the one fear. Just look at I was reading one article today in The Economist. People used to claim that, Japanese are always copycat. कुछ चीज बाहर से लेके आए, उसको कॉपी कर लिया, ask for subsidy and make that product a champion. But I was surprised to see that some of the patent which has been filed by the Chinese truck manufacturer are amazing. They are working on certain molecule to treat the cancer is amazing. तो सर ये टेक कंपनी का प्रॉब्लम नहीं, ये फार्मा कंपनी का भी प्रॉब्लम है. हम लोग कहीं ना कहीं we are not able to spending enough on the R&D. And I urge Government of India Finance Minister to give some incentive on the R&D so that more and more people are willing to spend on R&D. And I also request our investors to be little kind to those companies who spend on R&D and profits come है तो उसको ठोको मत, उसको बेचो मत. That's what my request. But you are right, absolutely right, sir. I think we need to spend, unfortunately, we don't have a unique concept that world can copy from us. Of course, one has been the UPI, which has been a very unique concept, and a lot of hats off to the Government of India. But other than, why can't someone can think what Meta could think in terms of Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp? Why can't we think something which is out of the box? Amazon आया तो हमने Flipkart बना दिया. Uber आया तो हमने Ola और Rapido बना दिया. Why can't we think what Uber, which was a novel, Netflix for example, why can't we think something out of the box? And that can only be possible when someone is willing to think out of the box. And today, fortunately, the capital is available to the entrepreneur. पहले क्या था, capital नहीं मिलता था वो thought process को. अभी capital मिल रहा है. Why are we not doing it? I 100% agree, sir. But this is one point which basically really makes me a little sad about India, is that we are not giving enough impetus to the innovation, something out of the box thought process. And the day we start thinking, I think we would be a different kind of an economy altogether. Manish sir, my question is, as per the data, DI invests very good amount in last 15 months and FI reduce investment too much. Don't you think if FI back, then all DI will reduce their holding and market will not go anywhere? Please sir. तो सर मान लो आपकी बात सही है कि FI comes back. Why would the DI will sell? उनका तो liquidity आ ही रहा है ना, पैसा आ ही रहा है. Am I right? And they will not see, no DI will take a cash call. उनका तो मैंडेट है इन्वेस्ट करने का. और FI ने भी पैसा लेके आया, DI भी आएगा, तो डबल धमाका होने वाला है वहाँ पे तो आपका. And fortunately, when the market start doing well, more retail investors will pump in more SIP, will do more SIP. They will do more lump sum investment. So more flow will come to DII. And when the more flow come to the DII, वो बेचारा कैश कॉल थोड़ी लेने वाला है, वो थोड़ी बेच के कहाँ जाएगा. वो तो एक्चुअली इनफ्लो आ रहा है, ऊपर से बेचेगा, उसका भी उसको फ्लो आएगा. And then if they underperform, then what happens? So do you think if FI comes back and if DI sells and don't invest, they will run a risk of underperformance, and I don't think any fund manager will do that. So ये तो डबल धमाका होने वाला है FI comes back तो. Tushar says, Safran Indian 100% technology transfer is a game changer for defense and ancillary industry. Will Mojo IP help me to come fast with the players who would benefit? If not, why? And how can we have such insights for Mojo users? Sir, see, if this technology transfer is going to come to the listed company, it will get captured by our IP and so on and so forth. But if it is not in a listed space, how would you get benefit of that? That's a big challenge, sir. And remember, this 100% technology transfer is not a short-term benefit. It has to get percolated out in a medium to long run. तो आप सोचोगे कि उससे profit बहुत जल्दी बढ़ जाएगा, so on and so forth. That's not going to happen. So what you should understand is that there are companies which are available in defense space. They will get the benefit of that. They are listed because sentiment improves. And once one company did that, I think more company will try to mimic that, and more 100% technology transfer will happen. So it is just a new beginning that has happened for the India's defense, and I think it will further accelerate going forward. So we do own Tushar in our PMS portfolio, one defense company. It's in our top 5 holding, and the reason why we invested in this company because we believe that defense as a peg should do reasonably well. Venkatachalam says, I loved your emotions about the economy. A fitting response to USA and Trump in particular. Thank you. सर कोई बेवकूफ़ी वाली बात करता है मुझे बहुत गुस्सा आता है. फिर जो हमारी ऑफिस में हो, मेरे फ्रेंड सर्कल में हो, या आप डेटा से बात कीजिए ना, आप फैक्चुअल से बात कीजिए. And that's what I really, and unfortunately we have some super intelligent politicians also who basically amplify that dead economy jibe at us. तो डेट इकोनॉमी कभी होती है जब आपको दिखता है वो, यू कैन टच एंड फील व्हेन यू लिसन टू द कमेंट्री ऑफ द इंडिया इंक, एंड वो बोलते नहीं है तकलीफ है, वो था ही नहीं. एंड इफ यू व्हाई नाउ सर, यू गो बैक टू माय वेबिनार्स व्हेन दिस comment was made on dead economy, and at that time also I was furious, and I'm also right now furious basically. Why should we? And हम लोग को क्या तकलीफ क्या है, हम लोग कोई गोरी चबड़ी बोल दे ना हमको तो हमको लगता है वो बात सही बोल रहा है. ओके, बिकॉज अपना जो सेल्फ एस्टीम है ना, अंग्रेज हम लोग पे जो राज करके चले, हमारा सेल्फ एस्टीम बहुत लो हो गया है. समवेयर वी नीड टू राइज अवर सेल्फ एस्टीम एंड शुड बी एबल टू टेक ऑन द पीपल हु ट्राई टू बुली अस. एंड आई डोंट थिंक दिस इज इंडिया विल एक्सेप्ट the foreign bully now. Dinesh sir, good evening. Sunil ji, what is your comment on the impact of US, Japan and China financial condition and their impact on India? Is it right time to liquidate stocks and wait for opportunity? Sir, I don't expect USA to crash. There will be a correction. I don't expect crash happening in the. Just to give an example, Dinesh ji, because human memories are very short term, 2022, Nasdaq was down by 1/3, 33% it lost. In 2022, Indian market closed in the positive, 4% gain or something if my memory serves me right. Japan market, I don't think much of an crash kind of stuff happening there. Okay, and China definitely a little challenge. Now in all this, if something has to go wrong with US, Japan and China, there could be a short-term negative impact on Indian equity market, short-term. But Indian equity market will be the major beneficiary. The FII which has sold very heavily, the fund manager will look out for the bright spot, and India would be that bright spot. In 2025, in dollar terms, India is the worst performing market. Who knows? In 2026, in dollar terms, India would be one of the best performing market purely because of the other countries are facing headwinds while India will have a tailwinds on its force. So your question, right time to liquidate? Sir, मैं कर रहा हूँ, मैं आपको suggest कर सकता हूँ. I am putting more money. I put more money in the month of October in equity. I added more money in the month of November. I am going to add more money in the month of December. So the reason I'm doing it because I believe India should do well. That's my advice. You do what gives you comfort level. Rashid, so is this the time for assets reallocation, gold and silver to equity? Rashid sir, no. 10 to 15% should be in gold and silver. Again, I said gold and silver is a part of your assets allocation strategy, not your view on the gold and silver. The अंतर समझ लो आपको. You know, I came in front of you and I said I sold gold ETF at 95 rupees. I sold gold ETF at 105, and I again repeat for benefit of everyone. If gold ETF goes to 110, I will sell another 5%. And if it goes to 120, I will sell another 5%. That money I will come to the equity. Why? Because it's part of my assets allocation strategy, not because I have a view on the gold or silver. I got it. तो सर आपका 10 से 15% ही है गोल्ड एंड सिल्वर में. डोंट डू रीएलोकेशन. हाँ, बट इज मोर देन 15%. Bring it down to 15%. जो समझ लो 17% है. Reduce by 2%, and that 2% go to the equity. That's a reallocation you can do. If it is 20%, bring it down to 15%. 5% go to the equity. Nimesh Kanani sir, what should be the sensex target sectors in mega trend, please? Nimesh sir, 1 month down the line, I'm going to make my presentation on equity outlook for 2026, where I give probability of where would the Nifty would be by the end of the next year. Please wait for that, and I'll be more than happy to answer your question at that point of time. Madhusudan sir, which sectors are expected to perform well in near future? So sir, I think the data which looks, and of course I'm again going to repeat that in my January 2026 prediction, how do I see the next 1 year for which sector? Banking looks extremely good. In fact, BFSI looking very, very good. Defense should do well. Telecom should do well. I don't know, but some of the telecom packs have undergone change where the price has been revised upward. More revision will happen. So the ARPU will increase. So telecom looks little promising to us. Cement looks little promising to us because of consolidation, volume growth, price growth, GST reduction. Government focus will continue on the capex cycle. If you happen to listen to the L&T, the private capex has gone up, and their order book, which was 21% coming from the private capex, is now 30% come from the private capex, so on and so forth. Infra looks promising to us. Lower interest rate also basically makes infra a little better. So these are the sectors which looks a little promising in the near term. And of course, auto, as and when the numbers will come on the 1st December on Monday, you will see very positive numbers coming from the auto numbers also. Jayant sir, thanks for your good inputs. Could you please explain what is yen trade and how it's affected India? Also, will NRI appreciate against USD next year coming year? Thanks. Okay, what is yen trade, sir? बहुत simple मैं बताता हूँ, sir. Because yesterday we did with a very exhaustive webinar with our previous customer. Yen trade is nothing but Japan में cost of borrowing is almost close to 0. तो आप क्या करते हो? जापान में पैसा बोरो करते हो, वो पैसा आप यूएस में डालते हो, शायद वो बिटकॉइंस हो या एनवीडिया हो या टेक स्टॉक्स हो या गोल्ड हो, सिल्वर, कुछ भी हो. Since normally the yen depreciates against the dollar. तो जब आप उसको पैसा वापस भी देते हो, कन्वर्ट करते हो, आपको बेनिफिट मिलता है, डबल बेनिफिट. एक तो येन डेप्रिसिएशन का बेनिफिट मिला, प्लस यू बोरोड एट 0, ऑलमोस्ट 0%, एंड यू इन्वेस्ट इन अदर असेट्स विच गिव यू 8, 10, 12, 15, 20% रिटर्न. इट मेक्स सेंस टू बोरो. जैसे आप लोन अगेंस्ट शेयर्स लेते हो, वो आपको 9-10% में देता है, and you think that assets which we are borrowing that money and putting that money, margin credit funding for example, जो कंपनी ले रहे हो वो शायद 20-25% देगा. तो आप आपके दिमाग में सोचते हो भाई मैं 9% पे बोरो कर रहा हूँ, 20% मुझे गेन हो रहा है, 11% मुझे बेनिफिट मिलने वाला है. दैट इज नथिंग बट द येन ट्रेड. तो वो खाली जापान में होता है, करेंसी में होता है, आप यहाँ पे इंडियन करेंसी में करो. दैट्स व्हाट इट बेसिकली. If you need something more, I can do exclusive webinar again the way I did with our PMS customer to explain you all. Will INR appreciate against the dollar next year? Please wait. So in our equity outlook for the full year, we also talk about where would the rupee against the dollar this next year. That I'll also cover. So I'll answer that question in January 2026, first week of January 2020, which is 1 month down the line. In the interest of the time, last 5 questions, please, Basil. RB sir, since the GDP numbers has come higher than expected, will this attract FII to return, which return will cause a snowball effect in equity market despite the rich valuation of many stocks? How do you suggest we position our portfolio in this scenario? Your answer is yes to your question. FPI will make a comeback. Monday market should open with the positive gap up, and that will have a very double dhamaka which I was talking about. Number 2, which stocks to buy? Sir, हमारी मोजो स्टॉक्स है, हमारी मोजो 1 स्ट्रेटेजी है, हमारा स्टॉक ऑफ द मंथ है, स्टॉक ऑफ द वीक है, उसको वो बनेगा आपको. Why do you, and if you have 50 lakhs or more, come to PMS. We will invest in good quality stocks. Sitaram Ayya, how come inflation is 0.5 versus growth at 8%? So what that has to do with that, sir? I don't understand the question only. What inflation has to do with the growth? On the contrary, there are 2 numbers, GDP nominal and real. The nominal GDP at the actual prices, and the real GDP is the nominal GDP minus inflation. So that's how we should look at it. So don't get confused. Normally, low inflation is good for any economy, am I right? Because that means more people have more money to spend. More money to spend, that means more better economy. When there is a high inflation, the growth takes a beating, because then you are not able to save much. You're spending more, which creates it's a problem. So low inflation is always good for the economy. There have been multiple RBI repo cuts in 2000 and one more is expected in December. Similarly, can we expect multiple rate increase in near future? I don't think so, sir. I don't expect any rate hike to happen from the RBI, because the inflation is very, very benign, in fact. So why would the RBI would basically hike the rate of interest? Normally the interest rate hike happens when the inflation is high, just to curb the inflation. I don't think so, sir. Sarang sir, what is your view on China market from here on? Sir, I'm not a big fan of China market. I wouldn't like to invest. Can investor consider some investment in Chinese market as a hedge? If you ask me, I will not be comfortable, sir. Very, very frank with you. There will be some stocks which you can invest, but unfortunately, we are not able to invest because you need to buy the basket. I am putting all my money on Indian equity. Have I taken exposure to US market? The answer is no. Have I taken exposure to the Chinese market? The answer is no. Have I taken exposure outside India in any equity? Answer is no. Because you can easily hedge Indian by doing proper assets allocation. And within assets allocation, within equity also, you can do proper hedge allocation by allocating between large, mid and small cap. So hedging cannot be done only by going outside India. By investing within India, you can hedge your position. So, and if you want to know more, I'll be more than happy to discuss with you on a one-on-one basis, Sarang sir. It's very easy to do that. See, problem happens, and I always keep saying, money making is simple, provided you have a clarity of thoughts. हमारा प्रॉब्लम क्या होता है, हमारा क्लैरिटी ऑफ थॉट्स नहीं होता है, and then hence we look for a complex solution to the simple problem, and that's where things go a little haywire. I'll give a classical example. I remember that 12th standard, I was appearing for a board exam, and there was a paper of a mathematics or statistics. I'm not able to recollect now. And at that time it was of 75 marks, अगर मुझे याद आ रहा है तो वो. And then another paper of 75 marks. Maths का 2 divide में होता था. And since I was a commerce student, we had the option not to go for a maths and statistics, but you can go for secretarial practice. But I opted for mathematics. It was a 2.5 hour paper, if my memory serves me, because it was since about a 75 marks paper. And I could complete in 20 minutes the solution, the complete paper, and wanted to give the paper and go out. And the instructor, the person there, he said, you can't leave before half an hour, that's the rule. Okay, I said, okay, I'll wait for another 10 minutes, and I walked out. I went to the library and all my friends came to the library and said, कुछ पेपर बहुत खराब गया होगा, because हमको तो 2.5 घंटे में पेपर खत्म नहीं हुआ. And I said, पेपर बहुत सिंपल था, और पेपर सिंपल था, then why should it take, why did it find even 12 hours was not sufficient? I could complain 20, बोलता तू बेवकूफ़ बनाया है, तेरे को मार्क्स नहीं आएगा, and देखते हैं मार्क्स कितने तेरे को आते हैं. And fortunately, I scored 97% in that mathematics. And I made that point at that point of time to all my friends. It's a clarity of thoughts. What you have, how you basically look at the problem. Unfortunately, we love a complex solution to the simple problem. The simple problem is that the solution is simple. Remain invested in equity market. Do proper assets allocation where you give 10 to 15% to the gold and silver. Take out money which you, as an emergency fund, put in the fixed income. Balance you put in the equity, and within equity, based on your risk appetite, divide into large, mid and small cap. Once you do this basic exercise, I don't think you need to do any kind of an hedging when you go outside India and invest that. That's what my advice would be. Sam sir, what is your view on open IT sector? Sir, I'm not bullish. I've said many times also, I do believe that more pain is going to be there, and hence we need to wait and watch. I will not be. I must tell you upfront, in our PMS, we don't have any exposure to IT stocks. So IT did well in the month of November. Am I right? Which I've used in the month of November, our PMS done better than the benchmark, despite not having exposure to IT stocks. Last question, Basir. Huh? Haven't we lost labor arbitrage? नहीं, वो तो जवाब दे दिया मैंने. Nirmal Mehta sir, JPA was down in 2025 55. Majority of credit trade winding up in 200. So by increasing interest in JPA will not impact anyway. What's your view? So I said, Nirmal sir, I said that if you look at the JPA yen credit trade is a 3 elements to look at it. Never look at JPA in a single dimension. 3. 1, the rate of interest. Second, the JPA, the yen movement versus the dollar. In 2025, there is hardly point to point. There is no deficit between Japanese and the US dollar. So point number 2. And number 3, the underlying assets, the money that you have borrowed, where that money has gone into. There are 3 risk elements that you need to be aware about. So again, in fact, I mentioned that, sir, we don't expect, Narimal sir, any major impact because of yen carry trade. 250 billion US dollar is the yen carry total. And it's not necessarily that 250 billion all is has a leverage. Am I right? India's market cap is 55 trillion US dollar. US would be near about 35 US trillion dollars. So 250 billion, that's not a big amount that we are talking about. So what kind of a, so कोई आपको बोल के जाता है कि yen carry trade is a risk and so and so. I think somewhere the mathematics doesn't tally there. So my view is that no major impact. In India का क्या है? Only 5 to 7 billion kind of numbers. 5 trillion पे 5 to 7 billion क्या मायने रखता है? So again, that's why I don't panic so much. If someone makes you think that yen credit trade से ये हो जाएगा, in fact market गिरता है, please go and buy. That is a buying opportunity. सवाल तो बहुत हो गए, am I right, Basil? But I think in the interest of the time, we would like to conclude 2025, the last month we are entering into. I expect market to the rally that we saw in the month of October got extended in the month of November, we should see really get it extended in the month of December. I'm bullish on the Indian equity market. But if you are not, please consult your financial advisor and do what you feel is right. I'm saying what I believe, I feel is right, and I again add in the month of December to equity as an assets allocation. Good night. Thanks for attending this webinar. See you not next week because I'm traveling 1 week after that.